Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this session on Retail Revolution Emerging Opportunities. With the retail landscape evolving rapidly, we have an insightful session and discussion ahead featuring the eminent retail leaders from Kerala and across India. They will share their perspectives on emerging trends, challenges, and opportunities shaping the future of the industry. So I hope we are all set to be ready to start this discussion and the session. Moving on with the further of the second session of the day, for the opening remarks, I would like to invite Mr. Biju Cherian, opinion editor of Deccan Herald. A journalist since 2008, Biju Cherian started his media career with the Indian Express in Chennai. He moved to Delhi in 2011 and has worked with the Hindustan Times, Network 80s, Money Control, and is currently an opinion editor at Deccan. Ware is also a member of the core editorial team at the Deccan Herald. He has focused on expanding DH's reader base for economy, banking, and finance. At Money Control, he was an instrumental in setting up the opinion section as its first opinion editor, built the verticals business and political analysis. He hosts a current affairs show called Political Bazaar, which discussed politics and its impact on the market and the economy. Before joining the media, he worked for 3 years in the social sector as a project research associate on health, agriculture, and education projects. A communication professional, and he has a diploma in filmmaking and master's degree in English language and literature. With wholeheartedly and a round of applause, I welcome Mr. Biju Cherian on the stage.
Good afternoon, one and all, and thank you for being here this Saturday morning. According to the India Brand Equity Association, India's retail sector is one of the fastest growing in the world. It employs about 8% of the workforce. It contributes about 10+% of the national GDP, and it's projected to employ about 25 million people by 2030. Now, just to give a perspective, 25 million is more than the population of Sri Lanka, 3 times the population of Hong Kong. The urban Indian consumers' purchasing power is increasing, and they have shown a strong demand for branded goods. This is in apparel, cosmetics, footwear, watches, and jewelry. And you can now see an increasing trend going into luxury segments. And according to BCG, the luxury retail segment at the moment is poised at about 8 million. And by 2032, it's projected to be 14 million. That's the size of the pie of luxury segment in the retail sector. In the backdrop of this, we would be discussing Kerala's retail sector. The Ministry for Industries, P. Rajiv, yesterday stressed on a couple of points. I'm taking a few of them just to give an idea. Out of the 100 people, 87 of them have access to internet. 3.5 lakh MSMEs were established in the past 3 years. 1 in 4 families in Kerala own a car. And last year, 20% of all EV vehicles sold in India were in Kerala. There is an infrastructure which is growing by the day. There is buoyancy in the policy report, in policy support, and consumer demand, which mirrors the growing market indices. There is a lot to be discussed. Luckily, we have an eminent panel with us who would make it an informed process and give us an idea what is the global retail sector, the national one, and how it is evolving and what needs to be done in Kerala's retail sector. With this, I invite Bijoy Kurian to give the keynote.
Thank you, and a very good morning to all you ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad that we are starting almost on schedule, and hopefully in the course of the next hour and a quarter, we will have a good understanding of some of the trends which are driving changes in retail across the country, and more specifically in Kerala. It's also a pleasure to be here in Kerala. A lot of my old retail friends I can see around in the audience, and I had an opportunity to meet some of them also yesterday. What I'm hoping to cover in the course of the presentation is primarily just an understanding of what are the factors which drive retail, and what are some of the complexities of retail when you look at a country like India. And then after that, to lead on to what does retail mean in South India, and to some extent specifically about Kerala. But we have some legendary retail veterans like Mr. Pattabhiraman, who's here. So I would certainly appreciate his understanding of the Kerala retail market than my outside-in understanding of the retail market. And then finally, some of these key factors which are driving changes in retail currently, and hopefully all of this in the course of the next 20 minutes. Just to start off, when you think about retail, India is a complex country and also a complex market. And it's complex because of the way our population is distributed. So all that I've done is I've taken the population of some international countries and placed them on the India map. And what you can see is the whole of USA fits between UP and Bihar. And similarly, if you look at Andhra and Telangana, all of Russia fits there. So this gives you that when we think of India as a market, we have to think of India in terms of diversity. That there are huge groups of people who live in different parts of India, and India is not one single uniform market. It's also got several other factors which make a change. And when you think of things like cuisines, especially if you look at food and grocery retail is about 60% of India's retail market, food and grocery alone. So when you think of food and grocery retail, it's not about just eating potatoes like you would do in the case of Eastern Europe, or it's not about eating meat like you would do in the case of United States. While we are largely non-vegetarian, surprisingly, but on the other hand, even the vegetarian, the food diets are also very different across different parts of the country. So this is just what I call as the cuisine map of India. Because if you're in the food and grocery retail, you have to actually cater to the kind of needs that people have in different parts. So if you're eating tapioca and rice in Kerala, and if you just move out to Karnataka, you will find that people will ask you, why do you eat tapioca? Why do you, if you go down, you go up north again towards Rajasthan, they will say that, no, we don't eat as much rice, we eat a lot more in terms of wheat. So across the country, you have to be able to cater to these unique tastes driven by long-standing culture of both the foods that they eat and the cultures that they have come in. This is about just to translate food into vegetables. And if you look at vegetables and spices, and I remember the morning session when they were talking about spices across the world, if you just look at vegetables and spices across India, you will see that, again, uniquely, there are different kinds of spices which come from different parts of India, different kinds of vegetables which also come from different parts of India. So there is also a need to understand this. So one of the translations of this is that you might have a local leader, like say Eastern, but when you just go across the border to Karnataka, you will find another brand. You go towards the east into Tamil Nadu, and you'll probably find Achi Masalas doing much better there. You go a little north, and you'll probably find MDH and Everest doing well. So even our spices and masalas are actually made to the unique tastes of our local population, which is why some of these spice brands don't go across the country. They remain largely dominant in the same home states that they are in. Languages, and this is very critical when you think about communication. We all talked about, yesterday we talked about, or rather Viju just talked about 87 people being connected to the internet. And when you talk about 87 people connected to the internet, what you're talking about is a largely English understanding audience. Now, the internet just does not provide you content in English. You also have to remember that the people locally might want to speak in Malayalam. They understand Malayalam. Somebody else wants to speak in Gujarati. Somebody else wants to speak in Hindi or Bengali or Odia. Now, that is, the internet today does not give you that flexibility. It does, but not to the extent that you would typically want. But when you're actually starting to communicate, and when you think of communication, there is television, there is the newspapers, and both of these are mediums which are struggling in the current age of new age media. So there's a whole lot of social media. A lot of it is now moved to video. Earlier it used to be largely in terms of audio and static images, but now it's also moved to video because of easier bandwidth. And when you look at a video, and if the person in the video is speaking in English versus speaking in Malayalam versus speaking in Hindi or others, what you do realize is that there is a much greater affinity. So gone are the days of regional television, which used to be dominant at one time, but today the need is of regional social media, where you need to have social media also converted into regional languages in order to be able to communicate with the customer in that particular town. So that's another area that we all have to think about. So it's not about putting one ad in English in, let's say, the whole of the United States, but it's about putting ads in different languages. And when you put ads in different languages, obviously the models have to be more easily identifiable in that particular state. The clothes they wear, the jewelry that they wear, all of that has to be identifiable in that particular state. So there is a lot that needs to be done when you think of a market like India in terms of communication. This is just to give you a sense of the wealth distribution. We know that retail is one industry which is largely dependent on the income of the population. The richer you are, the more you're likely to spend. The poorer you are, the kind of things you buy are very different from the kind of things that a rich person would buy. So your tendency is to focus a lot more on food and grocery when you're poorer, and you will then start spending on luxury and other indulgences when you're richer. And if you look at a market like this, what you can see is that the red on the top, which is Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, actually are at average income levels. And this is at an overall level, if you look at it, in India it's 1.75 lakhs, but they are at about 80,000. Whereas if you look at the south of India, you can see that Andhra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, etc., all are at close to 3 lakh rupees. So while South India is certainly 50 to 60% richer than the Indian average, just UP and Bihar by itself is less than 50% of the Indian average. So when you're in UP and Bihar and you're setting up a retail network, obviously the incomes that you have to contend with, the potential that you have to look for is going to be significantly lower than what is that potential in a market in the south. Similarly, when you look at Kerala, while it looks a little lower than the rest of the south, we also have to add to it a large, NRI inflow, which comes in, which is not measured as part of the national GDP. So that will give it another 25,000 rupees or so on the average. So this 2.7 will go to about 2.9, making it closer to the south. So that's the other area. When you're in retail, have to think about just not population. You can't just think about what exactly those people are consuming. You have to think about how do you communicate to them in different languages, and also what is the strength of their wallet? What is it that they can buy? The other part of it is in terms of India, in terms of age. And what you see here is that a large proportion of the Indian population is under the age of 25, and they're all progressing to between 25 to 64. So India at one stage used to be adding population at the rate of approximately 1.8% per year. Today we are adding population at the rate, or rather what you might call as a net population growth, which is the difference between those who die and those who are born. And that is currently getting added at a level of about 0.88 to 0.89 percentage every year, which means that over time our fertility rate is actually dropped, and while the death rate has also dropped because of much longer lifespans, but nevertheless fertility is dropping faster than the death rate, and our population growth is not certainly as strong as it used to be in the past. But what you can see, and the positive thing here, is that at least for the next 20, 25 years, our working age population, which is the age group of 25 to 64, actually becomes a larger and larger part of the total Indian population, which I think is very good for us, very much in contrast with China, where the working age population is actually declining over a period of time. So India is actually in that positive trajectory in terms of the working age population. Overlay on top of all these variations in this country, other factors like the level of urbanization. You know, a state like Kerala, for example, you can't make out the difference between a village and a town, because towns kind of fade and then you enter what you think is another town, but is actually an extension and technically called a village. So like that, we have large. Traditionally, villages are always poorer than towns, but in Kerala, on the other hand, villages are generally richer than towns. So that's another twist that you can see. So urbanization has an important role to play. As I mentioned to you about media reach, the ability to connect, India has about 750 to 800 million internet users out of a population of 1.4 billion, and which means that while that's the average, if you look at places where the connectivities are low, then there are many places where internet connectivity is sub 40%, sub 30%. And certainly among certain segments, older men and women, the internet connectivity is also lower, while the younger generation, the internet connectivity is higher. So depending on which kind of retail you're in, you have to decide how to be able to use social media or digital marketing based on the customer segment and the age group of that customer segment. Religion, attitude, tradition, there are several such factors which we don't really take into account when we think of retail businesses, but these are all very, very critical. And when you add all of this, you do realize that how complex a country is India in terms of being able to think of it as one market. It is certainly not a single market. It's a complex market of several small micro markets, and each one of what we call as a micro market is actually equivalent to the size of a large country. So that's the way we should think about India. South India, in all of that, as I mentioned to you earlier, is a shining star. Kerala is at the forefront of the activities in South India. And if you look at South India and Kerala, as I mentioned to you earlier, South India is certainly much richer than the rest of Kerala, at least 50% if you were to think of the average across, and more than 3 times if you were to consider the difference between UP and also South India. Now, when you come to think about it, you do realize that there is migration. And when we say there are a lot of people from Bihar who are coming, a lot of people from Assam and West Bengal who are coming to Kerala, one of the key drivers of migration is the difference in the average per capita incomes. So sometimes we think it's because there are not enough young people to work in Kerala, but sometimes what we also have to remember is that migration drives change and drives people to move because of the sheer fact that they think that for them, a Kerala is a Dubai, while a Dubai for a Keralite is a very different game. So, that's the way we have to really think of urban migration or migration across states. The South is more urban distribution. In terms of the number of people living in towns versus the number of people living in villages, South certainly has it much higher than most of the other regions. And when you're in retail, what is most important is if you set up a store, how many people can you target? And if you have more urban population, more people living in towns, then obviously your ability to target more people with your store is higher than if you have to spread your retail network because you've got people in urban areas and also in rural areas. So that's another important thing to remember. We have more international travelers. We have kingdoms like the Chola kingdom. We had seafaring traders from Malabar, people from Chennai, Karaikudi, etc. So we've actually, as a race, been going out across the oceans from several hundreds of years. And in fact, Cholas, if you come to think about it, more than 1,000 years back. Whereas in the north, that hasn't been there. There are more people coming into the north than people from the south who've gone out. So going across countries and across oceans for people in the south is something that they're more comfortable and familiar with because they've always had it happening in the past. And now, of course, because of let's say, the migration through the healthcare system, migration through the engineering talent which is there, migration through the IT talent. We have a lot more migration that is happening out of the South. South has much older business houses. If you think of houses which are more than 100 years old, you will discover that many of them are actually in the South, except for a few inherited businesses which are in Calcutta. And of course, some of the larger groups like the Birlas and the Tatas. But otherwise, if you look at the medium-sized business houses, a lot more in the South. South, as I always say, and I don't want to really cast aspersions, is a more progressive part, and the ability to be able to embrace diversity is much higher in the South. So when you think of the ability to manage between different religions, the ability to manage between different income groups, the ability to manage across different businesses, generally in the South, there has been much greater flexibility to adapt to each other. And of course, if you look at several businesses, we've been pioneers in the case of the South. Jewelry, the business is actually dominated by groups which started from the South. And similarly, if you look at food services, people which have started in Tamil Nadu have actually gone across this country. So when you think about the market is actually ripe for a revolution. As I mentioned to you, per capita retail consumption is still very low in India. Even if you were to take into account what you call as a PPP basis, which is on the purchase power parity, what you do discover is that India is about half of China currently. Though the populations are exactly the same, but if you look at just the retail consumption, India is about half of China. India is about 32% of the United States in terms of actually what the average Indian consumes, which is a reflection of our income and also a reflection of the fact that we still need to get to a developed country status before we can actually think about consumption. So the opportunity to grow is pretty high. E-commerce and quick commerce is actually driving significant growth. Still small in terms of the total contribution to retail, but if you were to look at e-commerce and the growth at which it is happening, today if you look at a market like China, almost 50% of their retail market is dominated by e-commerce, almost 50%. In a market like the United States, it's about 20%. Whereas if you look at a market like India, digital commerce is less than 10% of the total market. Newer channels like social commerce, live commerce, all of these are coming in aided by technology. Multi-channel, omni-channel retail, these are words that we hear, but all of these are now happening because you have D2C brands as they're defined, brands which are purely online, and then the offline brands, and when they combine together, they create both the omni-channel and the multi-channel experience. And then, of course, you have the value and the premium segments, and Mr. Pattabhiraman will know that today the fashion market is getting polarized into two ends of the market. Earlier, we used to have a middle, but the middle is now changing and is becoming either lower end or value, and the higher end or premium and luxury. Because of the fact that retail is getting to be stronger, what is also happening is store brands are getting to be stronger. And in certain categories like food and grocery, for example, the number of national brands are limited, and there are large gaps which are available, which are currently filled by commodities. And what is happening is that there are a lot of brands coming into that space, which is capitalizing on the fact that this is only commodities and these could be brands. Alongside retail, there are lots of other things which are happening, which is retail real estate. Again, India is about a sixth of the US in terms of per capita retail space availability. Warehousing and logistics, Class A warehouses, there's a great opportunity that's coming up there. Companies are moving into that space. Retail technologies and payments, everything is now happening in India. And all these are actually catalysts of retail. And of course, the money for retail, now retail, there's a lot of private equity investment, which is also coming into retail, whether it's jewelry, whether it's food retail, whether it's fashion retail. So that also gives additional capital for retail to grow. So when you really think about it, there are several such factors which are changing the face of retail, and we have a wonderful panel to be able to dwell on several of these questions relating to this. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Bijoy, for your words. Right now, we are setting the stage for the panel discussion. Before that, I would like to give you a small introduction on all the panelists who are here for the session today. It's my privilege to start with Mr. T.S. Pattabhiraman, Chairman and Managing Director, Kalyan Silks. Mr. C.S. Pattabhiraman comes from a distinguished lineage of textile pioneers renowned for their legacy in the industry spanning centuries. With unmatched knowledge, sharp business acumen, and expertise, he has carved a niche for himself in the world of textiles. From these humble beginnings, Mr. Pattabhiraman laid the foundation of Kalyan Silks' first showroom at Round North, Thrissur. Today, Kalyan Silks stands as a testament to his vision and perseverance. In alignment with his diversification strategy, the company has ventured into hypermarket sector, inaugurating 5 hypermarkets in the key locations across Kerala. Mr. Pattabhiraman's relentless effort and forward-thinking strategies have driven the company to a remarkable success. Next, we have Jacob John, President, Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail Limited. Jacob John is the president of Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail, one of the largest fashion retail companies in the country. In his current role, he oversees the business of premium brands such as Louis Philippe, Allen Solly, and others. Jacob holds a bachelor's degree in chemical technology and textiles from University of Mumbai and a master's in business administration from the University of Singapore. He began his career as a management trainee at Madura Garments in 1995. Over the past 29 years, Jacob has progressed through various roles across operations, supply chain management, and product and brand management. Next, we have Abhishek Bansal, co-founder and CEO of Shadowfax. Mr. Abhishek Bansal received his Bachelor's of Technology degree in Production and Industrial Engineering from IIT Delhi in 2012. He is the CEO and co-founder of Shadowfax, India's largest on-demand crowd-sourced third-party logistics platform, the only B2BC platform with the capabilities to serve multi-end customer categories, quick commerce, intercity, e-commerce fulfillment, and reverse logistics. Under his leadership, Shadowfax has been able to establish a strong identity for itself by positively distributing the last-mile delivery ecosystem. Shadowfax has till date provided earning opportunities to 2 million plus youth in the country via its micro-entrepreneurship model since 2015. Abhishek has also received prestigious Gold Award from IIT Delhi in 2022, and he is also a recipient of multiple awards like. Next, we have Mr. Venu Nair, Chief of Strategic Partnership and Omnichannel Senior Vice President, Myntra. Venu Nair is the Chief of Strategic Partnership and Omnichannel at Myntra and is a part of its senior leadership team. In his role at Myntra, he is responsible for all the international brands on Myntra as well as bringing in new partnership across fashion and lifestyle. Before joining Myntra, Venu was the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Shoppers Stop. He is also an international leader with extensive experience in the retail and apparel industries. Prior to Shoppers Stop, Venu was the CEO of Westside at Trent Limited, where he was responsible for the brand's growth across the country for over 3 years. He has also managed the operations of Zudio and Landmark. Venu has also worked in London with various retails over 8 years, and while at Marks and Spencer's in London, he convinced the M&S board to venture into India, bringing M&S brand to the country. He later on moved back to India as the director of Marks and Spencer's India, setting up and buying offices for global M&S businesses in South Asia. Venu holds a Bachelor's of Technology honors from NIT Calicut and an MBA in Marketing from SPGIMR Mumbai. Next up, we have Subhash Chandra L, Managing Director, Sangeeta Mobiles Private Limited. When you have a vision to succeed and a determination to excel, then sky is the limit. Sangeeta Mobiles Managing Director, Shri L. Subhash Chandra, is a testimony to this. His underlying spirit and relentless commitment to excel has taken the brand to the absolute pinnacles of success. Sangeeta Mobiles had a humble beginning in 1974 when its founder, Sri L.P. Narayana Reddy, partnered with his friends to establish a music shop named Sangeeta in Bangalore, selling gramophones, records. But it was only when his son, Sri L. Subhash Chandra, joined Sangeeta that its fortunes changed. Soon the company was growing to exponentially and forayed into the home appliances, pagers, TV sets, computers, etc. It is thanks to the foresight of Sri Chandra that Sangeeta Mobiles is a force to the reckoned today. But in the industry's first damage protection or the price drop protection plan, Sangeeta has helped to clock the turnover of crores within 30 million happy customers who have become the brand's happiest endorses. With every year and every milestone, Sangeeta Mobiles only gets stronger and stronger. As the ever-dynamic Sri Chandra believes, we are not in the telecom business serving people. We are in the people business giving telecom solutions. Thank you, and I invite all the panelist members to please come up on the stage. I would be inviting them one by one on the stage. I'm really sorry, I just missed out one person. The last introduction is for Mr. Biju Cherian, a journalist from 2008. Biju Cherian started his media career with the New India Express in Chennai. He moved to Delhi in 2011 and has worked with Hindustan Times, Network 18, Money Control, and is currently an opinion editor at the Deccan Herald. Before joining the media, he worked for 3 years in the social sector as a project research associate on health, agriculture, and education projects. With a round of applause, I invite all the panelist members to the dais. A round of applause for all the members. I invite Mr. T.S. Pattabhiraman, Mr. Abhishek Bansal, Mr. Jacob John, Mr. Venu Nair, and Mr. Subhash Chandra on the dais. And the moderator for this session is Mr. Biju Cherian, inviting him also with utmost privilege to the stage.
So one of the key speakers who the introduction was missed out was Bijoy, because I actually asked him he should be a part of the panel, because before this we were having a discussion, and the insights that he can bring to this discussion, I said, there's no way you can actually sit out of it. Thanks, Bijoy. Thank you, all of you. I'm going to stand for as long as my legs won't hurt, and once they start, I'll actually take a seat. The session brief suggests, and I'm going to read it out, explore the retail revolution taking place in Kerala, driven by changing consumer behavior, technology adoption, and the evolving trends such as e-commerce, omni-channel retail, and sustainable consumer goods. Let's start by addressing a kernel point here. I'm going to throw it open to everyone over here. Is there a retail revolution happening in Kerala?
Thanks, Viju. Fantastic context setting. I think it's almost thrown open, the kind of opportunities and the growth opportunities Kerala is actually looking forward to. If you look at Kerala is seeing a major, kind of a significant transformation in retail. As I was going through the data you were putting up, it's almost a consumer state. If you look at the consumer spending in Kerala, it almost surpasses, or it's much higher than the average spending in Kerala, in India. So that shows that Kerala is kind of going ahead, miles ahead in terms of digital ways. It is going up. It is going up in the strong brick and mortar retail. So overall, if you see, it is just started to bloom. It's going to see the fruits are going to come in the years to come. And you can see that Kerala government and the industry's development, all of them are putting in the best effort in terms of infrastructure, in terms of connectivity, in terms of warehouses, and also ease of doing business. So it is actually a good boom for the years to come. So I can see that the revolution is just about to begin.
We have a good mix from the retail sector here. We have traditional players who've been here for decades, We have people from the e-commerce space and people who have brick and mortar stores here. So it's actually, you crystallize the whole sector and you bring it on the stage. This is what you see. Venu, what are your thoughts about it? Is Kerala witnessing a retail revolution?
Yeah, I think it is retail in the country itself and the way retail has been growing. And it's been growing and growing rapidly. But at the same time, I think if you look at a global context, it's still in its infancy.
Okay.
I think the headroom for growth is so much more, both for retail itself and more so for e-commerce. Retail in India is about $130 billion, out of which about 80 billion is fashion and lifestyle. And if you look at within that 80 billion, fashion today is only, the e-commerce penetration is only about 13%. If you look at countries like the US or China, it's multiple times higher. Even in countries like Thailand and Malaysia, the share of e-commerce is far, far higher than what it is. So the headroom for growth is very, very significant. And I think that democratization of fashion that we do at Myntra is definitely scaling up and driving the growth. If I talk about Kerala specifically, and I'll just give an example, at the last Onam, part of our Festivals of India campaign that we had done on Myntra, and we had set up the Onam shop, and we curated we curated regional preferences, whether it is the embroidered skirts, pattu pavadai, and so on and so forth, specifically Coca Kerala. We used local social influencers, and what we saw, the year-on-year growth and engagement on the platform was up 60%. So that's just an example of how the growth has been happening by curating specifically for the region, for the state, but also bringing in the best of both national and international brands available in the state.
Sure. Pattabhiraman sir, could you actually give yours? And I'll just add one more question to you, sir. As a retail player in the state for more than 4 to 5 decades, and you're a part of a brand which is more than a century old, how do you see the retail sector in Kerala evolving over the decades? Could you speak from your experience, sir?
Thank you very much for the organizers for giving me a chance to narrate my experience for almost 5 decades. Actually, in retail, it is not revolution happening, it is exploding actually. That much of difference is there. Of course, I am into traditional and brick and mortar business, and we are very comfortable with that business even now, Kerala. I think only in South India you can see huge showrooms like 1 lakh, 2 lakh square feet showrooms, where it is family shopping. That way we are very much comfortable. But still I can tell you, the future is not that happy.
Okay.
Because of the unhealthy competition from the e-commerce and everything, we are really facing, because unhealthy competition means you may be knowing very well. So that is a major issue that we are facing. Of course, the fittest of the survival. But to be frank, as a brand, Kalyan Silk, I am happy. For today, I am happy, that's all. Tomorrow, nobody knows. But still, I can tell you, I am the president of All Kerala Textile Association for the last 35 years. And almost 30,000 members are there in Kerala.
Okay.
They are really facing a very bad time. Actually, because of the unhealthy competitions. As far as the Kerala is concerned, the contribution of the so-called GDP is mainly from the retailers. The same is the scenario of supermarket also. If one supermarket is coming, 100 small shops are diminishing. So that is the issue. So as I told you, a century-old trade business I am doing. And personally, I am into this business for the last 5 decades, 50 years. So, for the larger interest of Kerala, something has to be done for the survival of the retailers.
It's a good point that you've brought, tuck shops. I'll actually come to that later in our panel. Could you actually tell me what you think about it, Sadra?
The question?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
for you, it's for you.
So first of all, I'm the odd fellow out on the stage. All of the rest of the people on the stage have something or the other to do in terms of business. But Sangeeta is the only guy. I represent Sangeeta Mobiles. Sangeeta is a 51-year-old retail chain of 800 stores spread across 7 states, headquartered at Bangalore. And we started as a gramophone music records showroom. We have now completely moved only to smartphone. So gramophone to smartphone, last 5 decades, and with 800 stores, India's first mobile retailer with a bill and warranty, Sangeeta is. But unfortunately, we are not there in Kerala. So whenever I talk to anyone, we are there all over South. Of course, even e-commerce, we are there, sir. You place an order on sangeeta.com, get delivered in 30 minutes, even if it's the smallest town, anywhere in South India, except Kerala, is what I say. So when my friend Biju invited me to be a speaker here, I said, why me? I'm the odd fellow, I should not be there. He said, all the more reason you should be there.
Of
This
course.
is Invest in Kerala, and you are the most important guy because you have to start. You can't be saying except Kerala.
Hopefully, by the end of today, you would have actually, chalked out a plan
Yeah.
to actually come to Kerala as well. Biju, if you could actually tell, as the chairman of the Retail Association of India, how do you see Kerala's retail revolution, retail sector? Is there a revolution happening? Because I think that's very important that we get it across through so that we can take it forward, the discussion.
No, I think if you look at Kerala retail in Kerala started before retail started in many other states.
Okay.
So that's the first thing to remember. We have brands which are unique to Kerala. I still remember electronics, Quailon radio service, C-Marties. These were all big brands. I mean, they continue to be also brands of today. But at one point of time when you thought about fashion retail, or Kalyan, for example, at the Round in Trichur, all of these are brands which were not available of this scale in any other city or in any other state. So I think Kerala has been a pioneer in a lot of this retail. Second part of it is I still remember as president of Reliance Retail when we came into Kerala in 2006, there were many unique local brands which offered very strong competition. So for the grocery business, at that point of time, there was a Varkis, which many of you all might remember. In the fashion retail business, there were all the big giants, C-Marti, Jayalakshmi, etc. In the electronics business, at that time it is QRS, but then of course several more brands have come in. But what my experience at that point of time has been that in no category did Reliance have a leadership position.
Okay.
Every category, it was a local brand which had a leadership position. And even at Titan with Tanishq, while we might have been a pioneer in organized jewelry retail, certainly none of the stores in Kerala did the scale at which maybe a Kalyan or a Malabar would do.
Okay.
So there is some learning which comes out of it. Now, the risk-taking ability of the Kerala retailers is also very high. I mean, most retailers are generally content to remain in the cities that they are in. They don't want to move out. And they prefer to have single large stores which are very large. So you might have a GRT in Chennai doing, at that point of time, maybe 20 years back, 700 crores from a single store, but not wanting to open a second store. But here, everybody is very comfortable. Okay, I started in Kerala, let me go to Tamil Nadu, let me go to Karnataka, and forget South. Let me go to the North, forget India, let me go abroad. So, people are willing to take risks and go abroad. So I think that's another factor which is there. So there are several positive factors such as these. On the other hand, if I were to think about migration, there is a challenge. with migration.
We'll come to the challenge a bit later. I'm just getting the ball rolling now. I'll come back to you on that.
So all of these are positive factors.
Abhishek, how do you see the Kerala story, retail story?
Yeah. No, first of all, thank you for inviting me over here. And it's always good to speak in the end after these esteemed panelists. You have the lay of the land and the context set up. I'll try to answer this question towards the end, but I'll try to give some context from our side. Just for everyone to register, we are a third-party logistics company. So be it online, be it offline, while all the retailers actually sell to the consumers, we are the ones who do the end fulfillment. Okay, and today we are at a sweet spot where we are serving offline, online, quick commerce, retailer-based delivery. So we are doing a bunch of that. Now, before I explain the retail changes that we are doing over here, it's interesting to know the end consumers. How are they changing? How the youth of Kerala changing? And what are some of the patterns that we've been seeing, at least in the last 5 years? Because that is really defining how the future of retail is going to happen in this state. Okay. So if you look at Kerala, I think one of the biggest changes that we have seen post-COVID is that people are now trying to build a career and aspiring to stay in Kerala versus before where literally everyone used to think about how do they can migrate outside. Today, like we work with franchisee partners, we work with people who are extremely enterprising, first of all. Okay, they are always thinking about how their career, how their business is going to become 5 years down the line. Can they, like if they are taking a delivery franchisee, can they own a truck as well? Can they set up a food joint as well? Can I do a diploma in some course and basically become an expert? Can I become a designer and then sell my own clothes in textiles? So people have become really, really enterprising. And this is a massive change that we are seeing pre-COVID versus now. Pre-COVID, people used to work in logistics or supply chain, and we knew that they will not last long. They are very short term. They will eventually find a better opportunity. They will go abroad. And most of them actually used to go abroad only. So I think that's a massive change that is happening. The people are becoming really enterprising. Anyways, we have seen how the earning per capita is significantly higher in Kerala. The spending is significantly higher. The second thing which is happening now is, and this is again because of the online penetration, the retail is shaping very, very differently. As we have seen and heard, Kerala as a state has been a powerhouse of brands, indigenous brands which have been built here, which have become national brands today. They have become really big. Now, what is happening is this enterprising youth of Kerala wants more. They just don't want what they have been seeing for the last 20 years. They want all the international brands. They want all the new D2C brands. And today, while we are fulfilling for some of these new age companies, it is one of the most surprising factors we have seen that there would be a list of brands where there is no context to Kerala as such, but their largest market has become Kerala.
And why do you think this is the case? Is it because the per capita income, of course, is one part, but anything else that's done?
Again, there are 2-3 reasons we believe, and especially to the brand that we have seen. Obviously, the spending is here. But that is there in many other places as well. I think one of the things being that people want to discover new brands which they are not able to find offline. The offline market is still developing in Kerala. The amount of international brands are like still entering Kerala. It is like things have fundamentally changed in the last decade. If you look at the Kerala retail market, 10 years back, I think it was mostly the indigenous brands that were here. Now malls have started coming. Last 5 years, I mean, things have really, really changed and opened up. But what is happening is still to an outside brand, to a brand based in Delhi or a Kolkata, Kerala is not the first market for them to go offline. Okay, so for the consumers of Kerala, who again are very enterprising now, for them the easiest way to is actually go online and discover those brands and basically shop online. There are brands in beauty and personal care. There are brands in specialized apparels where disproportionate, like 25 to 35%, that's the range of revenue contribution coming from the state of Kerala. This is just the beginning, I believe, in terms of the Kerala retail revolution that we are talking about. As these enterprising people grow, as whatever we have learned in this session, as that sweet spot of people who are making money, as they grow, they settle in over here, as brands discover this state, I think this is going to be a massive retail opportunity because of the underlying factors.
I'll just take a point from what Abhishek has said. correct me if I'm wrong, you said that, brands, their first option for an offline store might not be Kerala, but online, Kerala has got a great demand.
Yes.
Okay, taking from that, I'm just going to ask all of you, Jacob, if you could just tell me how it is. Why is that the offline Kerala is not the first choice? Is it because the reliance, sorry, the revenue patterns are such so, or is it because what we all know is that Kerala has got an image, it has broken out of it, but it takes time for an image to change, that it is not a investor business friendly state.
I think I differ with that question because if you look at our brands in Kerala, we started our first brand showroom maybe 30 years back on MG Road, and it still remains there. Louis Philippe started the first store. And Kerala, in fact, blessed this brand with so much of love. We continue to sell a lot of Louis Philippe shirts in Kerala than many parts of the country. So if you look at online versus offline, today if you look at every town center, every district center, or if you look at a brand which Kalyan Silks is bringing, for us, as a single most entity, Kalyan Silks is the #1 brand in the country where we sell our premium brand. So offline business, if you look at, we sell a lot more offline business than the online business. But the flip side of it is if you look at online fashion, as Biju's data says, less than 25-year-olds decide the company, they are the consuming class who decides the fate of India. So they are influenced by digital media, social media, and kind of marketing techniques. They tend to buy a lot more affordable fashion online, the so-called D2C brands and the value brands. So there is a propensity to move towards online, but still offline holds the key. A large 95% of the business come from offline. That's one of the reasons I would say MBOs in the country, if you look at, Kerala is the only state where MBOs, multi-brand outlets, Kalyan, Jayalakshmi, Shimati's, Karikani, all of them, or Polymutil, all of them continue to survive, is because Kerala is the only place where all the multi-brand outlets survive, and they still continue to flourish. When I talk to Pattabhiraman sir, he says, I'm opening my 30th store, that shows that offline retail is here to stay.
I thought, sir, you had said 47 was the number?
That includes.
I don't know whether you've noticed it, but there is a good polarization between the brick and mortar and online stores. And I really like this, and it shows how vibrant the retail sector is. Let me come to you, Vino. I just have a question. The current global retail trends that you see, how much of it is aligning with what you observe in the national level? And if you can just splice it down a bit more later, in Kerala.
So I think, let me start off with saying 90% of the top 50 brands globally are now present in India. And this has happened over the last 10 years. If you see retail in India, I started off by saying retail is still in its infancy. And just explaining that even further, I think 1991 was probably when the first department store opened in this country. Whereas if you look at the US or the UK, they've been there for 100 plus years. Marks and Spencer, where I used to work, is today a 140-year-old company. So it's just a difference in terms of lineage and time that retail has been in the country. Global brands today, and for many of the large international brands, India is almost the last frontier that they are now trying to capture to get depth and scale in. And that's because of the whole opportunity that global brands see in this country. Today, of the top brands that have come in, majority have now crossed over $30 million in terms of turnover and revenue. So not only have they come in, the revenue is happening, growth is happening, and growth is happening in double digits. And all of that is making the market very attractive. Combine that with both the opportunity that the country offers and the digitization that has happened in this country. I think most of you would know India is the cheapest data available in the country, per GB of data available, the cost of data today per GB is the lowest anywhere in the world. Combine that with the spread of digitization that happened. And that's what's propelling the growth of e-commerce. And we at Myntra, we cover 98% of the country today. Kerala, we cover 100%. So any place in the state, we deliver to. And those are factors which are helping the growth of retail to reach consumers and to be able to offer the best of international brands, national brands, and bring them into the country. And we do the reverse as well. We take some of the best brands from this country, from Kerala to the rest of the country. Kalyan Silks is on Myntra. We've got Mr. White. We've got Chandrika, Indulekha. All of these homegrown Kerala brands which are now available on Myntra across the whole country and reaching it around in a matter of hours, if not minutes. And that's really the way we are going.
If I could just put across, anyone can take up this question. You talked about, briefly talked about how you're taking local brands internationally as well. What more can be done to actually increase that? Now we've understood that we can attract international brands and there is a market for it. Local brands, if I'm a local business manager, I want to actually take it on an international scale. How do I do it? Is there a way to do it in which I don't compromise my local footprint as well? Anyone?
I mean, I would talk about bringing brands into the country because that's what we do. And I'll give another example of how we're bringing international brands and also innovating and doing things differently. I mean, not only have we got brands into the country on our platform, on the platform itself, but we have what we call as a Myntra Global Partnership Program. And again, an example, if I give Trendyol from Turkey. Now, this is a brand which is not available in the country. And we got them in by having a global partnership with them where the inventory that they have remains in Turkey. We list all of the styles that they have on Myntra through an API integration and on a real-time basis. And a customer can buy from Trendyol. We pick up, once the order is placed, we pick up from their warehouse in Turkey, get it into the country, and deliver it to the customer. And we built a it's significant scale over the last 18 months with this brand and a few other brands like that. So that's just how we are using technology to also innovate and bring in more brands into the country.
With the COVID-19 pandemic, one thing that saw a boost was e-commerce, and then after that you had quick commerce. Abhishek, when we were speaking a bit earlier, you talked about a very interesting statistic about how the small town in central Kerala saw this boost. Could you just repeat that once? And I also have another question. How do you see the quick commerce and hyperlocal market in Kerala?
I think quick commerce and hyperlocal, and it's not just Kerala thing, it's a revolution which is happening across the country today. And again, end consumers are loving this entire proposition of getting things delivered in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I'll give you an example of food delivery. When food delivery started, okay, Kerala was not the top of the radar thing. Okay, so it was like even some of the big cities were coming probably in the 30 to 50 city range in terms of the market sizing that was happening. By the time quick commerce emerged, Kochi and Trivandrum are now in the top 15 cities in terms of the market adoption. So basically, initially, that whole point around how much population is there, how many people are going to order, and people now learned how to do food delivery. But when quick commerce started happening, okay, it was actually one of the top cities, which essentially shows that there is a huge demand and there is a huge pull factor which is coming in, which the platforms are seeing on quick commerce. But I think it's a trend we are seeing across the country. People are just loving it. Just because of the sheer convenience, nobody wants to go out. spend time in traffic, figure out what's the product, when they can get delivered to their doorstep in like 10-15 minutes. So I think it's a revolution which is happening across the country. I think how the local shops, how the local players innovate, how do they capture this trend is going to be ultra critical. Okay, it is a trend which is here to stay, which will happen. So how do the existing players enable their supply chain, adopt technology, do fulfillment is extremely critical over here. I think on the quick commerce side, and especially on the food delivery side, there's a very interesting study, and I was sharing with the panel just an hour back. There's a city, Tiruvalla. Okay, so over there, essentially what happened was that, like during COVID, a lot of people came back. That city used to do like before COVID, it used to do some 600, 700 orders per day. Okay, during COVID, that city started doing 10,000 orders a day. 10,000 orders a day. It just shows how much disposable income it is, how much and how much people are willing to actually buy online as well. Post-COVID, it's not like gone back to the pre-COVID level. It's still doing like 3,000-4,000 orders every single day. And this is like one of those cities, I mean, if probably brands of today, brands from outside know even that this is possible, I think they'll jump in and they'll start opening their retail shops over there. But I think fundamentally the amount of disposable income the state has, the way people are spending, and we were hearing on the panel itself, I mean, Padma sir was telling about it. People don't even look at prices when they're shopping online. That's the amount of income that this state has. And I think, again, it is just about giving them options. As more and more options getting created, more back-end platforms are coming in terms of just providing the technology and that fulfillment expertise. I think Kerala has a long way to go. It is just starting, in my opinion.
Jacob, you were going to say something, but I'll just add a small bit to that. According to your segment classification, there is value, sub-premium, premium, super premium, and luxury. Over the years, have you seen a sizable change or a noticeable change in the consumption or the response to any of these segments, which you can actually share?
Yeah, it's a good one. So if you look at in fashion retail, as you rightly said, there is a value segment, there's a sub-premium, there's a premium, there's a super premium or a luxury. But when you see the consumer preferences across these segments, it changes. It's also, as data says, young crowd decides the fashion. So young crowd, when you look at, their disposable income is low. So they would look at affordable fashion, fashion at an affordable price. So if you look at value is decided by youth, and then of course value business, a lot of business goes on e-commerce, social media influencers, etc. And then comes sub-premium. Sub-premium is the place where an aspiring consumer who wants to buy his first branded shirt, his entry-level branded product, a first jobber, a guy who's going to get married, I want to get, a branded product to wear. That's where a person who wants to buy a brand. And then comes to premium. When you look at premium, here a person with a good disposable income wanted to wear a brand which is exclusive, a brand which has got heritage, a brand which talks about high quality, a brand which talks about craftsmanship. So disposable income, for a person when it is high, he will move to premium. And when it moves to super premium or luxury, this is where an arrived guy in life or a super rich guy would go for a very exclusive experience, a kind of a bespoke experience, personalized experience, and want to show a status symbol. You want to look very different from the crowd. So when you look at the segments, each of these segments has got a play in the market. When you look at a market like Kerala, I would still say, and as Vijo's presentation had one line I was just seeing, social media and the affordable income part, value runs faster. And then if you look at the second biggest segment which is running fast is, I would say in a place like Kerala, it is premium. That's maybe, premium is running fast because disposable incomes are high. People want to wear a branded garment. You look at a company like ours, a 12,500 crore company, approximately 8% of the business come from Kerala. That shows that premium business is actually loved by Kerala. So these two segments, I would say, value and premium is growing faster. Sub-premium, maybe it's in moderately. Luxury is yet to evolve, but there are widely traveled people, NRI customers, but it is almost at a stage it might show a growth, but as of now, I would say value and premium is actually driving the growth.
Growth. You were going to say something.
Well, I just wanted to touch upon mobile business. In a country where 146 crore population is there, we sell 156 crore mobile phones in a year. Yeah, indeed. So that just shows that, and I'm very fortunate I'm in this business. People upgrade so often. Okay. And luckily we are in a business where there's so much of EMI. And over the last so many years, the interest is borne by the OEM. So premiumization, we are talking about premiumization. Yeah. In fact, in mobile phones, the sub 10,000 phones have stopped selling, almost stopped selling.
Okay.
Nobody wants to hold a cheaper phone because it's, you want to play the games, you want to download the music, you want to do everything in your life is you are doing on the phone nowadays, right? So the processor has to be really fast. The battery has to really last long. So it's, and more than 50% of our business comes from, in fact, almost 70% of the business comes from EMI. Out of that 70%, more than 50% comes from NBFC finance.
Okay.
Which is, you don't have to have a debit card or a credit card also. So, yeah.
I'll just put it in a different context, and it's across the board. The uptick in the upper segment or upper part of the pyramid, say the luxury or the super luxury one, is this uptick there at the cost of the bottom, or do you have sustained volumes there? Which go, like for example, Jacob, if I were to ask you, your value segments, is the volume still there and then you see an uptick in the upper categories? Or is there a migration from the bottom rung to the top rung?
Yeah, if you look at branded segment, each of the customers want to move to the next level. His income moves up when you move the tires in the organization or whatever, if he's a businessman or a small time or an NRI, he keep moving up. Nobody wants to go down. So there is definitely a volume growth. Look at the number of luxury cars sold in Kerala. Kerala is one of the, I read that Chandigarh and Kochi sells the maximum luxury cars. That also shows that, Kerala is at a stage where volume increase is happening. So volume definitely is growing. If at all some segment where volume increase is not happening, maybe it's sub-premium. Sub-premium. But value definitely is growing and upper class is growing well.
No, I think to add to what Jacob said, I think if you look at, and this is not just Kerala, but if you look at the country itself, one of the factors which is driving the growth is urbanization. And linked to urbanization is also then the number of households where affordability and disposable income is going up.
It's growing.
If you look at, and if you can just imagine a shape, the wealth distribution was like a pyramid. But that over the last few decades has, and especially post 1991 when liberalization happened, and this will continue to happen, it's moving to the shape of a diamond where the middle is getting much more wealthier and hence more disposable income. Now what that is doing for brands is that the aspiration levels go up, and as that happens, people want to shop for better brands, and that's what eventually somebody who's shopping in the premium segment starts to look at luxury. Somebody who's in the value segment starts to move at premium. And the awareness of brands goes up, and that's what drives the business for each of the brands. So I think that's the stage of evolution the country is in. And this is only going to grow even faster.
Okay. Before I wind up, I have one question. We've got about less than 10 minutes now. I've got a question for each one of you. Can you tell me one thing that you look forward to in Kerala's retail sector you're hopeful about, and one thing you wish would change, or one thing that you think is pulling back? Pattabhiraman sir, could you?
As my friend Joseph said, I am the largest seller of your brands, Louis Philips and other thing. Like that, Mr. Nair also said this, Mitra also I am associated. But one thing I will tell you, the profit, whatever I am getting, 80-90% he is consuming. And the other thing also, we are surviving only because we have got our own brands and other things. Otherwise, with brands, no businessman can exist. That is the truth. See, there is two things. One is the brand and another is goodwill. We are surviving only because of our goodwill. Anything purchased from Kalyan itself is a brand. That is the way we do the business. And as it is, in such a small state, we are doing very reasonable business with 7,000 staffs, all Keralites. And indirectly also that much of staff we are maintaining. And now we have gone for another brand, Paseo. Paseo means fashion for the youth. Fast fashion, affordable price. That is our style. That is, because in this audience I am telling you, otherwise there is no connection with Kalyan Silk, but it is our own brand. Anything you buy, it is below 1,000 rupees. And almost 7 outlets are there, and within a year, we are planning 50 more outlets in Kerala and abroad also.
That's a testament of the retail
So one thing I will
revolution in
tell you,
Kerala.
those who are sitting here, those who are business people, one advice from my side is don't depend on the brands. You begin the business with the brands, at the same time you should develop your own brands. That is, goodwill itself is the main brand also. Naturally, to be frank, 50% of my products are my own brand, and that is popular in Kerala also. But I have not declared that this is my brand, because മലയാളത്തിൽ പറയില്ലേ മുറ്റത്തെ മുല്ലയ്ക്ക് മണമില്ല എന്ന് പറയും. അതുകൊണ്ട് this is the thing. And one thing I will tell you, even in the fashion world also, Kerala is making more fashionable lady wear than the Bombay and other places.
Okay.
Lot of youngsters are doing that. The major problem is manufacturing. They are really scared of doing it in Kerala, because mainly they do it in Bombay, Ahmedabad, or even in Bangalore. So we are now just because with the very good association with the Kerala government, we are slowly planning to bring all these manufacturers back to our own state. That is the future of Kerala. That is the only way that Kerala can survive.
Sir,
And for all of you who decide to start your own brand, we have a Rising Stars program in Myntra. We would be happy to list you. Because our job is to democratize fashion.
if I could just stay with that, what is one factor, if you could name one, the topmost in your mind, which you think gives you hope about Kerala's retail sector? One factor. Could you just recall?
No, whatever it may be, as my friend Joseph said, the touch and feel is very different. So people are more comfortable when they come and buy,
Okay.
not the online. Online, lot of negative things are there, which I don't want to explain because I am already associated with Mitra.
Sure. Okay. Bijoy, if I could ask you, Kerala's retail sector, when you look at it, what is one factor that gives you hope about Kerala's retail sector, and one thing that you wish would change so that it could further go ahead?
Well, if you were to think about the retail sector, then principally the number of people who live and how rich they are and how young they are actually will determine to a large extent the size of the retail market. And I think the wealth and the numbers are good. The challenge, I think, to some extent is with the youth. Okay. If you look at the structure of the population in Kerala, while the average median age in India is about 28. Unfortunately, the median age in Kerala is about 32.
Yeah.
And that is because for a variety of reasons. So I think that's the only factor I would think of. But however, in terms of literacy, reach, awareness, desire, there is no difference between, say, a Wayanad and a Calicut, or between a Thekadi and Kottayam. Everybody wants to buy the same thing, which you don't see. This uniformity in appeal is not something that you would normally see in many other states. So I think that's a very, very positive factor. The challenge, I think, is unfortunately the entire Lulu group moved out, but the challenge is retail real estate. It still is certainly in the key markets a challenge because of the cost. So your initial investments and outlays have to be quite high.
Subhash, if you could tell me, one thing that you look forward to or you think will
Yeah,
work in Kerala.
as an outsider who had 10 years ago, we had opened a couple of stores in, I think, Kannur and Kasargod, we were there. And this was pre-GST era. We had lots of issues, one with unionism. I had only read about it till then, until I entered Kerala. Then two, with the VAT authorities, etc. Because we had only 2 stores we were transporting from Karnataka. I would like to believe, especially looking at it from a distance again, with the way the organized retail, not only in jewelry. Earlier, I used to think Kerala means only jewelry. Because all jewelry retail chains across the country are all from Kerala. Literally. Owned by Kerala. Jewelry is owned by Kerala. But nowadays, a lot of mobile and electronics, many of my friends in the industry are doing extremely well. There's a lot of expansion that has happened. And the other thing that I used to always wonder was, every year there is something or the other that is in the news about Kerala. This fever, that virus. I was wondering, what is this? Why does it happen only in Kerala? It was indeed shocking.
Higher detection rates. A good healthcare system which highly detects.
Primary healthcare.
I see. Okay. So, that used to, in fact, I remember in one of the trips abroad for a Samsung Fold launch which happened in Portugal. My friend Shaji of Maiji, we both were traveling on the same flight, and he was holding his head. This was about 6 years ago. And he was saying, I have a big challenge. Never mind, I don't think Shaji minds me telling this here. 1 year we have Sabarimala problem, another year we have, union problem, another year we have rains and floods problem, another year we have virus or some fever problem. How do I, and most of the days the stores are closed, how do I even take care of my payments?
Okay.
But from there to now where Maiji is, I'm sure something is clicking beautifully. And Kerala, everything is happening rosily. So I would like to believe that much has changed, changed for the good, and it is obviously attracting people like Sangeeta.
Abhishek, how do you look at the one positive and one advantage and one disadvantage as you see it?
I think the advantage is obviously the future and the people over here, the enterprising nature, and obviously when people are enterprising, things are always on a positive. This state, despite having a high capita in consumption and income, will obviously move north of where it is today, which is a great thing. I think the challenge is again, which people have already spoken about a bit. It's the perception and the awareness. Okay, people don't know the opportunity over here until you land, until you talk to a lot of people over here. And sadly, the community is not very wide outside. It's not like you'll find a lot of Keralites in every city. So people don't also know what's happening over here. So thankfully, we've been lucky of operating in Kerala for so many years now, and that's why we have some context. But I think it's just about the awareness and the brand building. Like, for example, Kerala, whenever you think about Kerala, that image is always about a tourist place. Okay, it's that campaign that Kerala did has been a game changer. I mean, everybody knows Kerala as a tourist place, but nobody, I don't like most retail brands, most retailers don't think it's a business destination yet. So I think that entire awareness. Or the branding that Kerala has been famous for, I think that needs to be done, and there is a lot of hope here.
Kerala did a very good tourism campaign that now we'll have to do something else to, blunt how good the tourism campaign was. Thanks a lot.
But I must tell you, we do get a lot of orders from Kerala in spite of the fact that I am not in Kerala. E-com orders.
That's a positive one. Thank you very much. But now I guess we'll have to open the floor for questions. The gentleman over there, you raised your hand. Could you? Yes, so the gentleman in the third and fourth row. If you could introduce yourself and direct the question towards who you're asking.
Sure. I'm Vincent. And we talked about the online and offline competition. And I feel that competition is actually good, and it's good for the end customer in terms of price and in terms of everything. So I would like to hear more from Pattabhiraman sir.
No doubt, competition is always good. My business strategy itself is where there is competition, I used to penetrate there. But the reason here is the offline and online, the difference is online people, there are chances and they are doing below cost, where the retailers, traditional business people are getting worried. Now, thanks to the central government, one CCI is there, Competition Commission of India. They have taken a serious step. And they will not allow this undercutting or below cost sales. Minimum should be the margin. That is what we are all worried. Or otherwise, the future of India will be 4 or 5 e-commerce will be existing, and the crores and crores of retailers will be diminishing. That is what I wanted to explain.
So, if you could please.
Yeah. My name is Achyutan. So I will just, none of you touched about digital influence or digital marketing. None of you touched. So what is your opinion about digital marketing? And second question is, what is the trend of the consumer to buy the long-term product? We have got a long-term or a short-term. What is the trend? Trend of purchase. Suppose I want to buy something which has got a long life or a short life. That is the trend.
I think I'll try and answer at least the first part and then attempt the second. In terms of digital marketing, I think it's, again, because of digitization, I mean, today, every single individual in this room, in this convention center, as well as in the city, would be spending probably at least, I would say, in amount of time they spend on their phone will be in hours, not minutes anymore. And the most effective way to reach the customers today, or one of the most effective ways, is definitely through the phone and through digital marketing. And that is almost, I would say, inevitable that you have to. Every brand which wants to should, and that's an area that has grown. And hence, social marketing is something which has grown dramatically. And if I give some of the things that we are doing on that, and I'll again specifically talk about Glam Clan, is a program which we started a few months back. And with Glam Clan, and you're all aware of the influence of the social influencers or micro-influencers, and even influencers at a city level, at a regional level, state level, all of that has grown in the last few I would say quarters and maybe a couple of years, not more than that. With GlamClan, what we have done is giving customers the opportunity to become an influencer. If you have bought something on Myntra, you can post your own video, and if somebody buys because of what you are showing, you get a chance to earn a revenue. And I'm just giving that as an example of how using digital mediums to reach a wider audience, and also what that does is brings authenticity into it. Here is a person who's a customer, herself or himself, and she's talking about the product. And that authenticity which others are able to see becomes a major influence in their decision. And there are loads of such examples which I could talk about. On the second part, in terms of value, or is it long term versus short term? I think there's no one answer to that. It depends on an individual and what their preferences are.
Okay, we have time for one last
Can I-
question, and Mr. Razak.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my question is to Mr. Abhishek. So see, now you mentioned in your thing that Trivandrum, Cochin is giving good response for Q-commerce. So how does it, the commodity, what is transacted when it compared to lifestyle, like fashion product? Normally, commerce fashion products are much higher. And for Q-commerce, is there any percentage of lifestyle product or fashion product when compared to the FMCG or other products?
I think from what we have seen, it's mostly FMCG grocery. Typically, that's the kind of product which is very standardized. You can keep it in dark stores, which can be fulfilled also much faster. Majority of the sales that we see in quick commerce is today in grocery and FMCG as a category. There are emerging trends on hot selling items which might be required instantly. For example, men's innerwear is a big category which is growing in quick commerce. Then you have specific versions of mobile phones which sell in quick commerce, where there is these the latest model of iPhone will always sell. That's kind of a thing. So those kind of things which are high selling SKUs will remain in quick commerce. But in terms of lifestyle and the larger SKUs, we have still not seen quick commerce crack it anywhere in the country. Okay, it's like where there are little number of SKUs. That's where you can actually crack quick commerce faster.
One more supplementary question, how does Q-commerce, do you think that it can, suppose Kerala, you take a entire state. So in all the locations, it's limited to the major cities, basically. So how does it, you think the future for a particular entire state, or whether there is a possibility to scale up in that regard?
Yeah, no, I think it's all dependent on the customer traction these people get, because typically a dark store, if you set up, you will need anywhere between minimum, 700 to 1,000 orders per day per dark store. Okay, so it's all about the density that you are going to get in a quick commerce dark store. Today, I think what we know is that there are only a few cities where people are experimenting and people are setting up shop. But if we look at a pan-India level, quick commerce is going to be a smaller city play as well. Okay, but it is all about the density that they will get. So less than 500 orders a day is not sustainable because of the real estate cost, especially in Kerala. Kerala is very expensive in terms of real estate cost. So even in terms of talent pool, the salary expectations are significantly higher versus, let's say, anywhere else in the country. So Kerala operating costs are much higher than anywhere else. So maybe that break-even point, if it is happening 400 in any other city, for a small city of Kerala, it might still happen at 600. So unless that density is getting created, it's tough to penetrate. But if you think 3 to 5 years down the line, at least 25 to 30 cities within Kerala should have quick commerce.
Thank you, Abhishek. Thank you, each and everyone over here, for actually giving your views and expertise on this, and thank you for being a wonderful audience.
So, as we wrap up this insightful session on retail revolution, emerging opportunities, it is clear that the retail industry is undergoing a dynamic transformation, and valuable insights has been shared today. And As we conclude, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to our esteemed panelists by honoring them with mementos. I request Vinod sir to please present a memento to Mr. Viju Cherian, the moderator of our panel discussion. Next up, I request him to please present the memento to Mr. Bijoy Kurian. And now it's time for the wonderful panelist members, starting with Mr. T.S. Pattabhiraman. So please. Next up, we have Mr. Abhishek Bansal. Thank you, sir. Now I request Mr. Jacob John to please come forward and receive the memento. I request Mr. Venu Nair to please come forward. And last but not the least, I request Vinod sir to present the memento to Mr. Subhash Chandra. And finally, I request everyone to stand together for a group photograph. Done. Okay, so we are officially wrapped up with the session. Thank you everybody for being such wonderful audience, and thank you to the esteemed panel members.